Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing, should I write my ex a letter? I provide audio and email coaching to help people try and get their ex back or get a new girlfriend or boyfriend. Check out my website for more details, www.dateme.tips. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. So now let's get back into today's podcast, and today we are discussing, should I write my ex a letter? So if you have been dumped and you want to try to get your ex back, it can be incredibly challenging to decide what to do for the best to increase the possibility of you reconnecting with your ex. One of the most common thoughts which pops into the mind of a dumpee is whether or not they should be writing their ex a letter. It's something that a dumpee will dwell over for a little bit and then probably think to themselves, look, it can't do any harm. I might as well write them a letter because there's a few options the dumpee thinks of what they can do. The dumpee will think, I can write a letter explaining why my ex was wrong, explaining why we are meant to be together, explaining why we should be together, and reason with them and try to get in touch with their common sense as for why we should never have broken up. Or the dumpee might be thinking to themselves, look, my ex had a point. There was a great reason why they decided to end the relationship, and I now need to explain to them in a letter why I am so sorry and why I will not do this again, or why I will decide to do something in the future. Maybe if you was accused of not doing something, you could write him a letter, look, I will do something. The dumpee will be thinking to themselves, look, I can write a letter, I can really apologise for every mistake I ever made and promise in the future to do the correct things and to not do the incorrect things. Occasionally, a dumpee will also think to themselves, look, I'm going to write them a letter, I'm going to write my ex a letter, but I think they're completely in the wrong. And I'm not even going to really reason with them, on this basis. I'm just going to tell them how wrong they are and that if they're not with me, they will never have a happy life because I am the only person who can give them happiness. And if I don't tell them this, they will be, unfortunately, on their own forever because I am the only person who will put up with this person. I am the only person who will be able to bring out the full potential in you. So you must stay with me. You must decide that this breakup was a mistake and that we will now get back together. So there are the three main possibilities that a dumpee will be thinking when they are considering writing their ex a letter. And in today's podcast, I'm going to be explaining why each and every one of these reasons is terrible and why you should not write your ex a letter if you have been dumped. Now, it's different if you are the dumper. If you are the dumper, then you do have to explain the situation as you see it and as for why you ended the relationship if the dumper has changed their mind and now wants to reconcile. But I would always suggest that a dumper does this via text message. I've done podcasts on this subject in the past. Please subscribe. Please check those out. If you were in the perspective of a dumper, it is different. We're concentrating on the dumpee here and why a dumpee should never write a letter to their ex. So let's get into it. There's three main reasons, as I said, why the dumpee might think they should write their ex a letter, but each and every one of these is not going to be helpful because what we've got to understand is that writing a letter classes as a grand gesture. It's in the same kind of section of decisions a dumpee might make, similar to buying some flowers, buying any type of present, really any type of gift. That type of grand gesture really doesn't work. It doesn't really matter what type of grand gesture it is, and a letter is certainly a part of a grand gesture. And the reason it doesn't work is you've got to understand that for the relationship to have ended, the dumper has lost romantic emotional attraction for the dumpee. And once they have lost this romantic emotional attraction, they are no longer at the stage where they want to be in a relationship with their former partner, the now dumpee. The only reason they would ever change their mind on this is if naturally and from themselves the romantic emotional attraction grows to a significant level where they have enough intrigue to want to reach out. And this can be really grown in the dumper's mind via a few different ways, mainly my version of a no contact rule. Again, subscribe and check out my other podcasts on that type of situation and how you can really grow romantic emotional attraction in your ex's eyes. But staying on point, in this podcast, your ex, the dumper, has lost romantic emotional attraction, and therefore they are not interested in being in a relationship with you right now. So it is the equivalent of trying to feed somebody who isn't hungry. It doesn't matter what you put in this letter. It's not going to be relevant to the dumper. They're just not interested. So let's look in turn at the 3 potential reasons the dumpy might think they should be writing a letter, and really try to look into what is likely to happen if the dumper receives this letter. Of course, there is no 100% guaranteed way to get your ex back. Nothing works 100% of the time, and nothing fails 100% of the time. I am always trying to give you the best odds, the best chances, the best likelihood of success. And we never 100% know how somebody's going to react. So I am looking at the most likely outcomes on this, of course. So just bear that in mind. So the first type of letter we considered was when the dumpy writes a letter and they try to reason with their ex. They try to say, look, we were meant to be with each other. We are meant to be together. We work so well together. This is why we should be together. Quite possibly it might be because they have children and they're kind of using that as a reason. And as I was saying just previously, the dumper has lost romantic emotional attraction for the dumpy. So once they read something like this, they're thinking, what are you on about? This is your perspective and you are not respecting my decision, my feelings. You think this, I think the opposite. And if the dumpy persists in this way with a letter such as this, the dumper is just going to be thinking, you do not respect me. You're not listening to what I'm saying. And they are not likely to respond positively to such a letter. So the second type of letter that I said that the dumpy might consider writing is one where the dumpy really starts to beg and plead. You might say they apologize for everything. They say, I won't do that again, or I will do this in the future. They will try any reason. They will try to beg and plead and try to basically use any reason and possibility as for why they can improve in their mind of how they think they need to improve, and say to their ex, the dumper, look, I won't make this mistake again. Please, please, please give me a second chance. I am not a full person without you. You make me a better person. Please be with me. I can't cope without you. That type of thing. If the dumpy sends a letter like this to the dumper is going to think, wow, you are low value. That is such a low value thing to do. For a relationship to take place successfully, the scales of value need to be pretty even. They need to be relatively even. We need to even the scales. If somebody's been dumped, the scales are already not level. The dumper is higher, the dumpy is lower. If a dumpy then writes and sends a letter like I've just described, they will be even further down, because that is so needy, that is so desperate, and that is so low value. And it takes you even further away from the dumper considering to take you back and have a new relationship with you. Because people don't want to be in a relationship with somebody they see as really low value. It's not attractive. And if on occasion the dumper will decide to go on a date, meet up with the dumpy after such a letter like this, it is generally because they are feeling pity for the dumpy. Sometimes the dumper will feel pity for a dumpy. They might even take them back briefly, but often these reconciliations will end again within a couple of months, because it's not from a place of genuine romantic emotional attraction, it's from pity. Most instances, this will go down very badly. Very occasionally, the dumper might actually decide to meet up with the dumpy, but it's through pity. It is not worth sending a letter of any kind, and this type of letter I've just described will make you look very, very low value. So now let's move into the final type of letter that I was suggesting at the start of this podcast, and that is the type of letter where a dumpy writes to the dumper, but they are angry. They're basically trying to say to the dumper, look, you've made a big mistake. But they're not trying to reason with them like in the first instance. What they're actually trying to say is, you will not find anybody better than me. You know, if you don't get back with me, then you're going to be alone forever. There is no way you will find anybody who treats you like the way I treat you. Okay, you won't find anybody who treats you as nicely as I do, who gives you everything you want. You will never find somebody like me. So you need to stop being so silly and get back with me in a relationship. Well, if a dumpy sends a letter like this is horrific, okay? It is controlling. It is incredibly disrespectful. It is really trying to manipulate the dumper and really try to lower their self-esteem in an almost bullying type way. It is incredibly bad to behave like this. And in some respects, dependent on the level such a letter may be written, it could also be deemed as illegal, you know, because if you are really trying to manipulate somebody's mental health and really kind of put them under pressure by saying to them that they aren't going to have an enjoyable life without them and they need to stop being so stupid and all those kind of things, that could be deemed illegal. Certainly in some countries, they have laws against that type of thing. So that is appalling. If you are a dumpy and you're thinking of sending such a letter, then don't just not do it because it's going to fail. You know, you're not going to get your ex back in that respect. But you shouldn't be doing it because it's terrible. You know, if you are really feeling these type of bitter, horrible feelings, then I suggest you try to get some professional help from possibly a counsellor or a doctor to really look at your own mental health and your own thought patterns, because that is controlling. It sounds very aggressive, and quite frankly, it's quite abusive. Now, during a breakup, look, everybody's emotions are all over the place. People feel angry. People feel bitter. But you've got to understand where the line is. And you certainly shouldn't be trying to force somebody into a relationship with you because you're trying to say to them, look, if you don't get back with me, you're going to be alone. Okay, that is appalling. It's horrible. And I believe people are better than that. And I think if you're feeling those type of thoughts, you really need to have some counseling, work through these emotions, and you will understand that that is not how anybody should be speaking to another human being. So ultimately, if you write a letter to your ex, if you give your ex a grand gesture, then it is very unlikely to work and to reconcile your relationship. So if you believe that this podcast has helped you, please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.
Yeah, if you miss your ex, we can help with that. Help you get him back, or we can help find you someone else. Yeah, Vincent Bow, the relationship coach, giving you some insight, bringing you a new approach. DateMe.tips, go and check the site, giving you advice, helping with your love life. Get your ex back, or move to the next. Ain't no sweat, you know Vincent Bow got you. Finding love ain't no problem. Yeah, DateMe.tips, check it out now.